Okay, so there are some key mistakes you can make after getting your degree apprenticeship offer before starting. So basically there's a process there. So in like March or February, you're going to do your assessment centre with the company, and then like a week later they're going to give you a phone call or an email saying you've got an offer. There's a mistake you can make here between that stage and between September when you start. I'm going to explain what that mistake is so you can avoid making that mistake, because this is potentially like a catastrophic mistake that can basically like completely mess up you starting in September and you end up not actually starting at September doing the apprenticeship. I'm going to explain that all in this video so you know what I'm talking about. So this mistake is basically messing up the onboarding process. Okay, so once they've given you the offer, it's not just a case of they give you the offer and then you turn up on their doorstep in September. There's an onboarding process which you have to go through, which will get you ready for September, and you're ready to start in September, okay? And this is a mistake here, people messing up with the onboarding process. I understand why it is. It's because, to be honest, as with everything in degree apprenticeships, schools don't teach you a single thing about it. They're all focused on their universities, go for your 50k of debt to study a geography degree, but they don't tell you anything about degree apprenticeships. That's what I'm going to do in this video, explain this onboarding process. First of all, this onboarding process, you don't have to like succeed, okay? You don't have to pass. Once you've got the offer, you've got the offer, okay? You don't have to worry after this stage about impressing anybody or doing anything good like that. You just need to do it, okay? This onboarding process, it's not a case of like succeeding, it's just a case of make sure you do it properly, and then you're going to be able to start in September, no problem. So a lot of this onboarding process is admin, them asking for things like your certificates, your passports, doing a right to work check. So basically in the UK, there's like a right to work check. You have to have a right to work. You have to be like a citizen or all these sorts of things to work and do an apprenticeship. So they're gonna do a right to work check. They're probably gonna make you do like a background check, like a DBS, all that sort of thing. They're gonna be sending you so many emails between the offer and September, okay? And it's the same as like before in the application process. Do you remember in the application process when they like gave you online testing? They were like, here's the link to online testing. You've got 3 days to complete this, right? And let's say you didn't check your emails for like 4 days, you've missed it. Right, do you know what I mean? Like they'll say, oh, you have 3 days, 5 days to confirm if you want to do this assessment centre. Say you don't check your phone for, like check your emails, your like work emails or whatever for a week, then you're gonna have missed it, and then they're not going to be like, oh no, it's fine, because they have so many candidates. There's like a no tolerance policy. You have to make sure you're on that. It's the same with this onboarding process. All of these steps are going to be time limited, okay? Whether that be, we're going to send you a link to do some right to work check, like on your phone, do it within 3 days. If you miss that 3 days, then you're going to have problems, right? Because potentially then they're just going to be like, you're not starting in September, we'll get someone else, right? Yeah, it's antisocial, I'll give you that, because like you've got the offer and then all of a sudden they're saying 3 working days and all this crazy stuff, and they're just giving you so much admin. It's like, give us a break. You want to make sure you're checking your email every single, like I'd say every day, but it's like at maximum wait time every like 2 or 3 days from like March, April, May, all the way through to when you start in September. I know it's annoying, but it's like literally just go on your phone, check it for like 5 seconds every day, just because it's worth it. You don't like not check it for a week, and then you come back and you've like missed the whole process, because then you're going to have problems. This is like something you need to stay on top of, and it's a big mistake that can happen in the onboarding process. Is basically you think you've got the offer and then you sort of forget all about it, and then you completely miss this onboarding process where you have to do your right to work, check your qualifications, all this sort of thing, and then you've got a big problem there, okay? So that's like number one actionable step, is basically once you have your offer, keep checking your emails every like 2 or 3 days to make sure you're completing this onboarding process properly, make sure you're doing like the right certificates, the right qualifications, putting your details in right, doing the DBS check, you have to do like a medical check for some companies, all this sort of thing. Basically just make sure you're doing it, okay? Now the second thing is a very specific one, and this is to do with university. Basically, there's a lot of funding, like specific funding requirements with the degree apprenticeship. I'm not going to go into detail here because there's no point. There's just one small thing I want to get into it. Basically, with the degree apprenticeship, you have to be learning something new. Okay, you might have heard the 80-20 rule before. 80% of your time in your degree apprenticeship, you're working for the employer, doing like working on the job, working on projects, working for the company. 20% of the time, you're doing new learning. Okay, so whether that be at university, assignments, webinars, you're learning new things. So what the universities have to do is something called a skills scan, okay? And basically a skills scan is them checking what prior learning you've done, what existing learning you've done, okay? So there's going to be like a list of modules which they're going to teach you in your degree. Okay, so that's engineering, it's going to be like engineering maths, like some computational modeling thing, like fluid dynamics, like fluid mechanics, right? Or like statics, or like equilibrium, or some like stuff. There's going to be a list of modules. They do a skills scan to basically check that you check your existing prior learning, okay? Because if you have done existing learning on these modules, then the government isn't like allowed, they're not going to fund you for it, okay? So of course, this is fairly obvious. If you've done an electrical engineering degree from university, you're not going to be able to do an electrical engineering degree apprenticeship. Right, why? Because the government's not going to fund you to do this apprenticeship. They're not going to pay for your degree if you've already learnt it, like you already know all of electrical engineering. This is why a lot of companies in their like job description, they like get this covered at the start. They say, if you've got a degree in a similar field, then you can't do this degree apprenticeship, right? Because you've basically already learned the things you're going to learn in the degree apprenticeship. The government isn't going to fund you. You can't do this apprenticeship. Okay, so what they'll do is they'll do a skills scan to check your prior learning. And this is where you want to basically be completely honest. When I did this, I made the mistake of exaggerating how good I was at stuff. So they had like a list of modules, and it was like, like experience on site, like experience doing like engineering programs and all this sort of thing. I thought this part was still part of the application process, okay? This is like the key mistake I ran into. I made the mistake of thinking this onboarding process, this skills scan, was still part of the application process. So basically the university, they'll set up a call, or they'll just ask you to fill in a form, list of these modules, rank how good you are, like out of 10, out of 7 or something. It's like 0 out of 10, you've got no knowledge, like 3 out of 10, like some knowledge, 5 out of 10, like 7 out of 10 competent, 10 out of 10 highly competent, something like that. It's like a scale, and for each of these modules, these attributes or whatever, you have to like tick your, like how competent you were. I basically went through putting like 4 out of 10 on as much as I could, because I thought this was still part of the application process, right? So I was like, okay, I need to make sure I'm better than the other candidates. I'm gonna like put 4 out of 10. So basically what I was saying was I have some knowledge in this area. It was like saying something like, like site knowledge, being safe and all this sort of thing. And I'm like, oh yeah, I did 2 weeks work experience on site. I'll put like 4 out of 10, right? Exaggerate a tiny bit, right? Or like knows how to use engineering programs. And I'll be like, oh, I've seen someone use CAD on my work experience. I saw how to use this. I'll put like 3 out of 10 some knowledge, right? Because basically I was trying to like beat the other candidates in terms of the score. This is a mistake. That is going to cause issues if you do that, because what you're saying there is, I know 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10 knowledge already. I've like 4 out of 10 prior learning, means the government is not going to fund you on that 4 out of 10, and that's going to give you problems, because if you know too much, they're just not going to give you the degree apprenticeship, right? If you came out of all these saying 10 out of 10, like I know everything you're going to cover in this degree apprenticeship, the government's not going to fund you, and you're not going to be able to do the degree apprenticeship because you know everything already. Does this make sense? It's basically a case of, if there's loads of stuff for you to learn, they're happy to give you the degree apprenticeship. If you're going to learn nothing, they're not happy to give you the degree apprenticeship. Does that make sense? So in this skill scan, be honest, you don't know anything. Probably, like, unless you've like done like an official, like, for example, there's one person who did like the first year of engineering at university, then they dropped out and did an apprenticeship. They would put there that they're like 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10 on like the certain modules they've done. Or like 5 out of 10 on the certain modules they've done, right? That's what it actually is. You doing 1 week's work experience, or you doing like watch a YouTube video on like engineering, doesn't mean all of a sudden start putting 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10 on these areas, okay? The levels they're talking here, when it says some knowledge, that means like actual like some professional proper knowledge, not just you like researching something online. What you're going to find is, for 90% of the people watching this video right now, you need to put 1 out of 10 no knowledge on every single module. Okay, because you don't know anything, you've just come straight out of school. Okay, sure, you've done like 1 week's work experience, you haven't learned anything from that. You haven't actually learned anything like useful that's like matching to these modules that are listed. Just put 1 out of 10, and it means the government are going to fund you, and it means you can actually do the apprenticeship. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. You've probably never heard of this skills scan before. Again, schools don't mention anything about this. It's like up to us. We've been left to this degree apprenticeship. They're all going off to do university and like getting in all this debt and all that sort of thing. We're sort of doing like the sort of sensible option and like getting paid for a degree and a job at the same time. Just to summarize, what is the mistake you can make in the process after receiving the offer? It is making a mistake during this onboarding process. 2 key things to think about during this onboarding process. Number 1, check your emails all the time, because they're going to send you so many emails, so many random steps. Oh, click this link and enroll on this. Oh, do this. Oh, can you fill in this form? Can you submit your passport? All this sort of thing you're going to have to do after getting the offer before starting September. Number 1, make sure you're checking your emails to do that. And then number 2, very specific one, during your skills scan, don't exaggerate and just be honest and be like you have no knowledge in anything, because it's not part of the application process. Once you have the offer and you have the contract, you've got the job. You don't have to impress anyone. You don't have to beat any other candidates. You don't have to succeed. All you have to do is just follow the steps. Make sure you're putting in your address when they ask for you. Make sure you're submitting your passport when they ask for you. Make sure you give them the certificates when they ask for it. Make sure you're filling in this skills scan form when they ask for it. Okay? You don't have to impress anyone. Just be honest. So I hope this video has clarified the onboarding process for you, and you now know a bit more of what it involves, how not to mess up in it, and basically how to successfully make your way to September. It's not something to worry about, this process. It's just a case of just stay on top of it and you'll be absolutely fine. Okay, thanks for watching this video. Hope it's helped, and have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks very much.